Factorize. Okay, right, so factorizing quadratics. Now, here we've got a quadratic, and it usually comes towards after the middle of the paper, towards the end of the paper. Now with this, if you think about it, this is what you get when you have two brackets. When you have two brackets and you multiply them out, you get this. So if you think, when you do FOIL, you get this type of answer. So now this is the reverse of FOIL, so it's putting it back in the bracket. When you put it back in the bracket, of course, it's quite simply, you're going to put x at the start of both of them, right? Really straightforward. And what I tend to do over here, I tend to think about multiplying and add. Now my two numbers here, the two numbers that I got on this side that goes in here, have to multiply to give this, minus 35. The two numbers then have to also add up to give 2. Okay, so they multiply to give minus 35, add up to give 2. Now if we think of two numbers, of course 7 times 5 gives me 7 times 5 gives me 35. So that will multiply to give 35. More importantly, I need them to add up to give 2. Now think about that, to get this to add up to give 2. Of course, one of them needs to be minus to make that to become 2. So if I put a minus in front of that 5, when I add these numbers up, okay, I know there's a multiplier there, but when I add these numbers up, 7 minus 5 equals to 2. When I multiply them, it gives me minus 35. So it works. So I've got plus 7 minus 5. Second one, similar situation. X in both brackets. I need them to multiply and add. Multiply to give that number there, which is 6. Add up to give that number there, which is minus 5. Now let's think of two numbers that multiply to give 6. 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Fantastic. 2 and 3 multiply to give 6. Can we get 5 from 2 and 3? I think we can we? But I want minus 5. So if you think, both of them would have to be minus, wouldn't they? Both of them minus, add up to give minus 5. When you multiply two minuses, it gives a plus, doesn't it? So when you multiply these, it still comes out as plus 6. So we've got our two numbers, minus 2, minus 3. Last one, we're asked to do two things. First of all, we're asked to factorize. So factorize here, again. Two brackets, multiply to give 16, add to give minus 10. Two numbers that multiply to give 16, 2 and 8, of course, would work. 2 and 8. For them to add up to give minus 10, they both have to be minus. So minus 2, minus 8. And it works. Now then it says, hence solve the equation. So what we need to do now is simply put it equals to 0. When it's equal to 0, both brackets equal 0, you've got to think of this bracket multiply this bracket. So you've got one bracket multiply another bracket equals 0. Now if you think about it, when you have two things multiplied together equals 0, if you think of any two numbers, when they multiply together and the answer is 0, one of those numbers has to be 0. Okay, so if you think like 6 times 7 is 42, but in order to get 0, you'd have to do 6 times 0, wouldn't you? 6 times 0 is 0, or 0 times 6 is 0. In this case, you have x minus 2 equals 0, so the first bracket equals 0, or the second one has to be equal 0. If the first bracket equals 0, you'll have x minus 2 equals 0, which means x equals 2. The second one equals 0, x minus 8 equals 0, which means x equals 8.